You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.
Hello and welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast, part of the 90 Min Football Network, currently sponsored by our good friends over at ProPrep. As ever, I'm your host, Harry Symeou, and I'd like to kick off by saying Merry Christmas. Hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas. Hope you got to spend it with friends and family. I know a lot of people didn't this year because they tested positive right on the kind of in the build up to Christmas. I wasn't able, unfortunately, to see my parents or my siblings because of a positive test within the family. Not me, but a family member. So that kind of killed it a little bit. But obviously, for me, you know, I'm not going to complain too much. I got to spend it with my little ones and spend a good couple of days with them without being interrupted by football and by work. So that was fantastic. But I am ready to come back to work now. I don't know how people do it. 24/7 kiddie care is not the one for me. But that's enough about Christmas. That's enough about my Christmas. As I say, hope you all had a great day, a great couple of days. Hope you all rested, relaxed. I know a few of you have got the virus. I hope that you guys haven't been too badly affected. And I wish you all the best. And of course, a speedy recovery. On this edition, we're going to be looking back at the victory over Norwich City. Arsenal with a 5-star Boxing Day performance. And we couldn't have really asked for much more from Mikel Arteta's Gunners. We'll be talking all about that fixture. Will be, of course, discussing some of the news that's broken this evening with regards to, firstly, Ainsley Maitland-Niles' future. Reports coming out of Italy that he is set to join Roma on loan until the end of the season with an option to buy inserted in that deal. And we'll be discussing the news that our game against Wolverhampton Wanderers, scheduled to take place on Tuesday, is now in doubt due to Bruno Lage's side having a number of COVID cases and injuries. And when a lot of people have asked me this question on Twitter, what have injuries got to do with it? I'll come on to explain a little bit about why I think injuries are being taken into consideration now. So we'll get into all of that on this edition. Big hello to everybody in the live chat. There's loads of you in there, loads of familiar faces. Great to see you all there. Great to see you all back. And I appreciate that it's Boxing Day, right? So people have still got family stuff to do. So to see so many of you in the live chat so early on is fantastic. So yeah, hello to all of you. Right, let's get into it. Norwich City 0, Arsenal 5. The day didn't start in the greatest way, to be honest. I mean, think about it. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Cedric Soares, and Takahiro Tomiyasu all tested positive for COVID. And when you think about it, those are probably our 3 best right-back options. I know some people would put Callum Chambers in there, but to lose all of those players and to lose them all in one singular position going into the game was certainly not ideal preparation for Mikel Arteta's side. Now, I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. I'm not going to sit here and whinge about it because the result was a positive one. The performance was a positive one. And fortunately, we were really, I think, unaffected by it. But you know, obviously that's not ideal. And what's really difficult about this ongoing situation is that, you know, I've been speaking to a mate of mine about what football should do and how the Premier League should handle it. And it's kind of like, well, on the one hand, people are saying they need to, you know, they need to be in bubbles. They need to be isolated. How can you stop these people, though, professional footballers, mixing with their families and friends over Christmas when the rest of the country is allowed to do it? So, you know, it's something that is inevitable. We're going to get cases and we're going to have to best navigate through this difficult time, you know, in whatever way possible. Fortunately for us, as I say, although it was 3 players, 3 of whom can all play in that right back position, we managed to come through it unscathed with Ben White coming into the team, or moving over, I should say, from centre back to right back. Rob Holding was the one that came into the team to fill that void in the centre of defence. Emile Smith-Rowe remained on the substitutes bench. No place back in the side for Emile Smith-Rowe, which would have I don't know if it would have surprised some, because the front line's been really kind of free firing and has been scoring a lot of goals. It's been really, really positive. So yeah, it wasn't a surprise. But you look at Emile Smith-Rowe, and every time he comes on, he does something. And I'm going to introduce a new feature on the podcast, which is going to be called, I don't know, something to do with Twitter. We're going to look at a few tweets. I'm going to screenshot a few tweets as I scroll through post-match and pick up a few bits that I can share with you guys. And there's a couple of interesting bits on there about Emile Smith-Rowe and the impact he is having off of the substitutes bench. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on as well. So the team was as close to the team that's been performing brilliantly as possible, as far as Mikel Arteta was concerned, with, of course, just that one change. Rob Holding coming in and Ben White moving out to the right-back position. Still no place in the squad for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. And once again, the reporters, the interviewers in the post-match interview tried to get something out of Mikel Arteta, tried to press him on the issue again. And Mikel Arteta's response was, well, he wasn't selected for the game today. That was the decision, that he wasn't selected. And he refused, as always, to kind of elaborate on that situation. But the longer this goes on, the more you wonder if there is ever any way back for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. But look, he's out of the team and we're scoring goals for fun. Read of that what you will. Let's start off with how the first half went then. I thought Arsenal were in complete control today from the off. I thought it was a really comfortable performance. I thought there was some really nice combination play when progressing the ball kind of through the midfield and into the final third. I thought that in particular, Kieran Tierney got forward to really, really good effect. I thought that the midfield in Xhaka and Partey, I don't want to say we're at their best today, but I thought they progressed the ball a lot more. There was still a couple of times with Granit Xhaka where he got on the ball and I was thinking, Granit, just release it that split second earlier. You don't need to take that additional touch. But overall, I thought he gave us a solid platform, as did Thomas Partey alongside him. And I thought the pair were, as I say, in complete control, as were Arsenal. And the first goal comes about pretty early on. And that obviously makes the world of difference, doesn't it? Because I remember watching the kind of first 5 minutes and thinking, okay, you know, we're not really in any danger here, but that combination play is not really happening. It's not really kind of clicking into gear. Is it going to be one of those days? But obviously, when you break the deadlock so early on, that helps. You know, what it does is it settles the nerves. It takes the pressure off you as the side that whom the onus is on to go and win the game. It means that your opponents, who maybe otherwise might have sat a little bit deeper, have to come on to you, have to be a little bit more expansive. And you'd hope that once you take that lead, you'll be able to pick them off for fun. So Bukayo Saka's finish was really, really important, but it came off the back of some really good build-up play. Kieran Tierney pressing high up the pitch, winning the ball back for Arsenal. And then the move developed with some really good, concise and what's the word? And passing with a good tempo, I thought, which opened us up. Now, when the ball came to Saka, I wondered if he'd just taken slightly too long on it, but he just stepped inside. And what he does brilliantly, Bukayo Saka, is he doesn't snatch at the opportunity. He doesn't look at the fact that there are defenders back behind the ball and say, I need to smash this into the far corner. Instead, he just uses the body of the defender as kind of cover, and he just guides it towards that far corner. Now, when you look at it again, it wasn't right in the corner, that first goal from Bukayo Saka. And actually, Angus Gunn in the Norwich goal might be a little bit disappointed that he didn't keep that one out. But what you have to say is the way Saka uses the defender's body as kind of cover and then manages to kind of just thread it through that gap, through the legs of the defenders, etc., and just into that little tight space, it makes it difficult for the goalkeeper, who is unsighted. The goalkeeper can't see that. The goalkeeper can't prepare himself for that. And the goalkeeper, although he might have known Bukayo Saka was going to go for that far corner, given that he's left-footed and he was playing in that particular position, it's difficult for the keeper to adjust himself when he can't see exactly when that ball's being released. So I thought that was a clever finish from Saka. I thought, as I say, he used the defenders as a bit of a shield. There's something to kind of block the eyesight of the goalkeeper, and he took advantage of that. So fair play to him. He used to snatch at chances, Bukayo Saka, and I think he's becoming a little bit colder in front of goal. He's becoming more confident. He's becoming more composed, and that was a prime example of that for me. The second goal came off the back of some brilliant work from Gabriel Martinelli, who was on the complete opposite side of the pitch as to where he should have been, but worked tirelessly to get himself over to that right-hand side, close down a Norwich player, wins the ball back for Arsenal. That kind of effort, that kind of work rate is exactly what Mikel Arteta is looking for in his players. And it proved, to be key, because once Martinelli and once the team worked the ball into Martin Odegaard inside, who, as always, takes up that slightly right of centre position, cuts inside onto his stronger left foot, the pitch opens up in front of him, and he just caresses the ball out towards the left-hand side where Kieran Tierney's coming forward. Now, Kieran Tierney finishes this superbly. He really does. Similarly to Bukayo Saka for the first goal, he doesn't snatch at it. He doesn't smash it across the goal. He just guides it in toward that far corner, knowing that if he does it right, he beats the goalkeeper. And it's a really, really cool finish from Kieran Tierney. And I really enjoyed his celebration, because that was the celebration of a man who was absolutely delighted and chuffed to get on the score sheet. I think that was his first goal of the season as well, Kieran Tierney. So he will be delighted with that. But that all comes from Arsenal winning the ball back, going that extra mile to make the turnover happen. And then when the ball gets to Martin Odegaard, him having the vision and the quickness of thought to make that pass early enough to get Kieran Tierney in behind. One of the other really impressive things about that goal, if you watch it back, it's that when Kieran Tierney gets in that position from which he scores, he could cut this across the goal and Bukayo Saka would be there to roll it in. Now, what this says to me is that there's a lot more desire in this Arsenal team to continue runs into the penalty area, to gamble, to get in the box, to get in those areas. And if you don't fancy taking on the shot, Kieran Tierney, you've got that option. But those options weren't there previously. We're seeing a lot more fluidity in our game. There's a lot more, there's a lot more confidence in the build-up play. But also that confidence then breeds kind of that hunger and that desire to do it more and more and get on the end of things. So, yeah, really good to see Kieran Tierney tuck it away. But again, Saka showing that instinct to get into the right position as well. If the player had decided that he wanted to roll it square, Saka would have been waiting. And that is a sign of the fact that we are getting people into the penalty area, that we are getting people into the right areas with much more regularity than we were previously. Just want to quickly touch on Martin Odegaard off the back of that, because Martin Odegaard was heavily involved in pretty much everything Arsenal did well today. He was superb. And people will say it's only Norwich. People will say, Norwich are relegation fodder. This should have been a comfortable win. And I get that. But when you're talking about a side that had struggled so badly for goals in the early stages of the season, and to a degree, a lot of the time last season, you take encouragement from seeing players make those telling contributions. Martin Odegaard, for me, and I was WhatsApping with a mate sort of half time, and he was saying, Odegaard is so good. It's such a joy to watch him. The way he kind of cuts inside onto that left foot, creates the spaces in front of him, spots the runs of people quickly enough, and then has the ability to execute those passes concisely enough to create openings and chances. It kind of reminded me of a peak Mesut Ozil. Now, obviously Martin Odegaard is a different player, but peak Mesut Ozil was so good at that, dropping into those half spaces, getting on the ball and finding the runs of his teammates and having, as I described earlier, that quickness of thought to be able to execute those passes in a timely fashion that makes it impossible to defend against them. And I think what Martin Odegaard gives that Mesut Ozil never gave is that work rate, is that tenacity, is that ability to press or willingness to press, depending on which way you look at it. And I think that's why Mikel Arteta is so keen on him. I think that's why Arsenal are so big on him right this moment in time. He's a player who's come in. He brings a lot of the technical qualities and a lot of the vision and ability that Mesut Ozil had, but now he's bringing a tenacity, a work rate, a better attitude, it seems, and he feels, to me, like a much better fit to the Premier League in 2021. And I think that's what Arsenal have looked at here. It was never going to be easy to identify a player that could bring you that kind of that kind of quality in the final third, but also the work rate that is required if you want to be, I'm not going to say a full pressing side, because I don't think we are, but a side that presses at certain times, a side that presses when they feel the opportunity is there, and a team that counter presses. Now, I'm not saying, that he's going to go on and have the career that Mesut Ozil did, but there is a way, there is a genuine kind of, I think, there is a genuine discussion when comparing the two, because I think he does bring a lot of those same qualities, but he also fits into this system well. And people were slagging him off when we signed him. I thought he started the season excellently, had a couple of bad performances, and went through a bit of a minor dip, and that saw him dropped out of the team, and he ended up kind of playing second fiddle to Alexandre Lacazette, and people were kind of sitting there going, well, why did we sign him? Well, when you think about the impact he's having on Arsenal right now, and you think about the impact that Emi Buendia, who people were kind of calling me an idiot when I said that we shouldn't be paying £40 million for him, I think you're seeing now that it's clear as day that Martin Odegaard's ceiling is miles higher, and the club were right to bring this guy in. He will have ups and downs, as does any player, and he's still a very young player, but we are really, really starting to feel the impact of Martin Odegaard, and seeing him at his brilliant best is honestly a joy. The third goal after half time, again, Bukayo Saka coming in off that right-hand side, dropping the shoulder, creating that bit of space. And again, he doesn't snatch at it. He guides it into the far corner brilliantly and adds Arsenal's third. The fourth, the penalty kick won by Alexandre Lacazette. I just think that's such a Lacazette thing to do, where he knows that the ball's coming into him. He steps in front of the defender and he knows that the contact is coming too. So I didn't think Lacazette had his greatest game today. I got to be honest. I thought he was a little bit under par, and he kind of got lost in the quality of Gabriel Martinelli, who unfortunately didn't get a goal today, but I thought was really, really impressive. But he kind of got lost in all that, Lacazette, didn't he? He got lost in kind of all the brilliance on show from those around him, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli. But he won the penalty. He put the ball in the back of the net. And it was nice because he recently missed the penalty, Alexandre Lacazette. So to see him back from the spot converting was obviously a positive. Martin Odegaard was again instrumental in the fifth goal. Now, I know it was Nicolas Pepe that played the ball across the penalty area and picked out the substitute, Emile Smith-Rowe. But what you have to say is that Martin Odegaard's little kind of drop of the shoulder and bit of skill just opens up that space to pick out that pass to Nicolas Pepe. So again, he was really effective. And again, Nicolas Pepe effective in the final third as well, as he was in midweek. Now, we know that it was against a weaker opponent. We know it was against an opponent that we should have been rolling over. But I think you're going to need people like Nicolas Pepe. Look, I know we're going to come on to talk about the Wolves game in a minute that we know is going to be postponed now on Tuesday. But when you have games in such close proximity, bearing in mind, had that Wolves game gone ahead, Arsenal would have had less than 40 hours rest between these two fixtures. You're going to need your squad. And it's important to keep your squad engaged. It's important to keep them playing where possible, to keep them fit and firing and sharp. And Nicolas Pepe looked sharp the other night, especially in the second half, and looked quite sharp, I thought, when he came on today as well. So, enjoyed that. We're getting goals off the bench at the moment. The competition for places is really good, especially in that final third. And I think that's a big reason as to why we're scoring goals so freely. It helps in the counter press that we can bring on sort of fresh legs at various points in the game. And look, I've got to eat a little bit of humble pie here because look, I know the season's not over. I know there's a long way to go. But if you remember in the summer, one of the things I kept saying and in the early weeks of the season was, I am concerned and I am worried that in relying on Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, Emile Smith-Rowe to really significantly better their outputs from last season, I felt that was a risk for Mikel Arteta. I felt that when you looked at what I would describe as, when you think about the context and the whole season, I thought Saka's goal return last season was disappointing. I thought, considering the positions he got himself in, I thought that Emile Smith-Rowe, I know he only played the second half of the season, but I didn't think he scored anywhere near enough goals. I think you could have pointed to Martin Odegaard as a player guilty of that as well. Nicolas Pepe contributed a fair chunk last season, so it's unfair to question him on that. But Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe, although they showed a ton of potential, weren't producing at the level required if Arsenal want to get into the, if Arsenal want to get back into the European places. And the same can be said of Martin Odegaard. But so far, so good. Those guys have really stepped up, and that's massively important. It's important that we don't rely on one source for goals and that we do share it around, because that's something that hasn't been the case at Arsenal for a while. It's been Aubameyang until last season. It wasn't Aubameyang, and we dropped off. And we had a really poor season, a poor first half of the season anyway. So I think for me, it's great that we're sharing the goals around. And as I say, I'm pleasantly surprised by how these young guys have kind of taken on that mantle, got their heads down, and are getting on with it, producing at a really good level week in, week out. And, if they can keep doing that, there's no reason why we can't chase down a top 4 place, chase down a top 5 place, get ourselves back into the Europa League at minimum. But, as I say, I did think it was a massive risk. And, credit to Mikel Arteta, because he had the balls to do it, even at a time when he was under a lot of pressure. It'd have been easier, I think, for Mikel Arteta to say, I'm not going to spend 50 million on a centre-back. I'm going to bring William Saliba back. I can go and get a centre-back for 20 odd million. And I can go and buy myself an experienced winger or goal scorer. But he has a lot of faith in these young players. And while he gets a lot of criticism for a lot of things, Mikel Arteta deserves an awful lot of praise for not just kind of nurturing this young talent and taking them on to that next level. Because let's be honest, Saka's gone to another level. Emile Smith-Rowe's gone to another level. He's also, as I say, shown incredible confidence and faith in them. And that's going to prove, hopefully, to be the right move. And that could reap rewards for the Spaniard in the future. So I've got to eat a bit of humble pie there. I wasn't sure whether or not they could do it on a regular basis. I know we're halfway into the season, which is, there's still another half to go. And when you contrast or compare last season's first half to the second half, you can say things can change very quickly. But as of this moment in time, both of those players are performing. Odegaard's performing. And it's really, really good to see. And fair play to Mikel Arteta for, even when up against the ropes, having the balls and the minerals, I guess, to say, nope, these are my guys. I'm going to back them. I'm going to stick with them. And now, as I say, he's reaping the rewards from that. Because look, you can go on about this all day, but ultimately their returns last season were what I would describe as, to put it in a kind of teaching term, unsatisfactory. That's how I would have ranked their kind of, their outputs last season. So to see such a dramatic improvement for me is huge. Right. So yeah, Arsenal 5-0 winners at Norwich. Really, really enjoyed it. Cruise control throughout. We really did look like we were full of confidence. We looked like we could step it up at any point in that game. We looked as though we could shift up a gear whenever necessary. We managed to put the ball in the back of the net on 5 occasions. And this is a team that are scoring goals for fun right now. And I've got a few stats and facts that I'm going to throw at you towards the end of the show, off the back of my Twitter scouring a little bit earlier on. But let's just quickly react to a couple of bits of news. First of all, the news that the game against Wolves at Emirates Stadium on Tuesday is postponed. First of all, I know there are a few of you in this chat. Big shout out to Steve Stone, especially, who was planning to come to the game. And I know for you guys, that must be incredibly frustrating to have the game cancelled at this kind of really late stage. I can only imagine how some of the fans that have been traveling to games this season only to see them called off hours before must have been feeling. It's definitely not ideal and not what you want to hear around Christmas. What I will say is this, though. If there is a small silver lining to take from this and a positive to take from this, if one at all, it is that Arsenal will now not have to face Wolves, as I mentioned earlier, on 40 hours rest. Because for me, I had a massive issue with this Wolves game, and I was really frustrated to see their game called off today for a couple of reasons. So first of all, I was on commentary for their game today. I was supposed to be covering that game. And I'll tell you what, it feels to me like every single postponement in the Premier League over the last couple of weeks has been on a game that I'm covering. And I can tell you what, just before Christmas, That is not what you need. A ton of your freelance work to just be swept away from in front of your eyes. So from a purely selfish perspective, I was gutted that game was off today, especially around Christmas. But also because I wanted to have a good look at them. And I feel like when I commentate on a game, I'm obviously glued to the game and I'm a lot more attentive than I would be if I was chilling in the house with Wolves on in the background. So I was kind of looking forward to the fact that I was going to get to see them up close and personal, I guess, ahead of that fixture against us. So that's why I'm disappointed. Selfish reasons. I'm disappointed for those people that have obviously made the effort to get hold of tickets and come down. But I think if you're going to find the positive, there is a positive, and that positive is that Arsenal will now be rested, and Arsenal don't have to run the risk now of, of dropping unnecessary points because of the way the fixtures are worked out against us. Now, Wolves are going to have, off the back of their postponement today, the postponement that, for their game that was due to take place today, they'd have had 9 days rest in comparison to Arsenal's 40 hours. That is absolutely ridiculous. And I keep talking about the need for, if the Premier League is going to continue, for there to be fairness, for this situation that we find ourselves in to be dealt with in a way that as much as possible upholds and maintains the integrity of the competition. And unfortunately, crap like that isn't fair and isn't maintaining the integrity of the competition. Now, I just wonder, and I don't know this, and I'm not even saying that this is definitely the case, and so we should be throwing tons of praise at Mikel Arteta for this. But I wonder if going into the game, Arsenal and Mikel Arteta were aware of Wolves' efforts to get this game postponed. Now, the reason I say that was because if there was one of the two games to rotate a couple of positions, you'd have said that a game against relegation-threatened Norwich City would be the better game to experiment in, would be the better game to leave a couple of players out. You would also have said that given that we were 3-0 up at such an early stage in the game, that Mikel Arteta might have made changes quicker. And he didn't make changes quickly. Plus, he failed. I'm not going to say failed because it's up to him, but he opted not to rotate as heavily as maybe some people expected, given the proximity of those two fixtures. So I'm wondering if Mikel Arteta and Arsenal had an idea, had an inkling, had knowledge of the fact that this was a possibility going into today's game at Norwich. So, I'm interested because obviously we had cases today as well. We've been really lucky up until now that the cases that we've had have been, and with the exception of Takahiro Tomiyasu, they've been players who probably wouldn't have started the games anyway. So we've been fortunate in that sense. But as I say, I'm pretty sure that Arsenal probably would have, if not known for certain, had a good understanding or idea of the situation around the Wolves game going into today's fixture, because the reports broke immediately after the game, which suggests that, that information might have been leaked previously. It comes from Tim Spires of The Athletic, who covers Wolverhampton Wanderers and is obviously very knowledgeable around the club. Just feels to me like the way Arsenal played the game today was not the way a team who have the game in the bag already, act when they know they've got a game in less than 40 hours time. So that's just my theory. So yeah, that's the first bit of news. So Arsenal's game against Wolverhampton Wanderers on Tuesday has been postponed. It said that it was likely to be postponed when I was reading it prior to going live on the show. I've just got a notification as well from Sky Sports saying Wolves' Premier League game at Arsenal on Tuesday postponed due to COVID-19 cases and injuries in the Wolves squad. Just quickly on the injuries bit, because a few of you have been asking me this on Twitter. Why are injuries being taken into consideration? So obviously, normally, right, injuries are not a reason to get a game postponed. But what I think is happening here is I think the clubs that are going to the Premier League and saying, guys, we need to postpone this game, or we'd like this game postponed, or we feel that this is the best course of action, are doing so by presenting kind of the list of players that are unavailable to them. And while, as I say, injuries are not normally a reason to get a game postponed, I think if clubs are presenting the case that they don't have enough players available, they're including those injuries in that list. And the Premier League, because of the ongoing situation, because of the COVID crisis here in the UK, are looking at it and going, well, we kind of have to take injuries into consideration, because if they can't field a Premier League registered 11 and, X amount of subs, then we've got a problem. So as I say, I don't think that injuries are the sole reason that these games are being postponed, but I think they're just adding that kind of, clubs are adding that context and adding that kind of information when they're pleading for games to be postponed, to prove and highlight that their situation is difficult and that the game should probably be postponed. Now, it does affect the integrity of the competition, but as I say, it's not just injuries alone that are getting these games postponed. It's part of it. It's part and parcel of the discussion, and I'm sure negotiations that are going on between the Premier League and the respective clubs, but it isn't the sole reason or the main reason even why we're seeing some of these games being postponed. Just wanted to quickly touch on the Ainsley Maitland-Niles reports as well. And we'll do a little bit more on this tomorrow, I think, in a little bit more detail, or later on today if you're listening via the audio platforms. But before I do that, I just want to give you guys a quick message from our sponsors over at ProPrep. Now, ProPrep is the perfect study tool for uni students undertaking science, technology, engineering, or maths related modules, and it can halve your study time. ProPrep provide bite-sized videos relevant to the module or course you are studying, which can be accessed from any device at any time. And they've already helped over 500,000 students to pass their exams. They provide customized STEM study tools that match your syllabus. Long lectures are condensed into short and clear video tutorials. And after the videos, you can go through what you've just learned with interactive exercises and practice questions, so you'll be ready. You can even submit questions to the ProPrep professors and receive a video answer back within just 24 hours. And the guys over at ProPrep have created a very special offer just for our listeners. If you go over to proprep.uk/info/football, you can find more information on the product, and our listeners can sign up for a free 30-day trial now. No credit card information is required. That's proprep.uk/info/football. That's ProPrep, the ultimate study tool. And we thank them for their kind sponsorship of this program. Right, let's talk Ainsley Maitland-Niles, because of course, reports doing the rounds that Ainsley Maitland-Niles is in advanced talks with Roma over a loan move in January, with the Rome club having the option to purchase the player come the end of the season. Now, I'm not surprised to hear that Ainsley Maitland-Niles' future lies elsewhere. I'm not surprised by that in the slightest. Myself and Mike Stavrou, we did a podcast the other day. We were talking about players that, we'd like to see the club move on, and players that we'd like to see the club bring in. And Ainsley Maitland-Niles was one of the players we discussed with regards to the ones we'd like to see move on. Not because he's a bad player, not because he's an issue, but because he clearly is not happy with the role he's got at the moment. And the more you look at the situation, it's difficult to kind of understand exactly what's going on here. This is a player who had opportunities to leave, for whom there were offers for. The club decided against doing so, and then don't play him, don't use him. And you're kind of sitting there and you're going, this doesn't make sense. He's not really got a look in of late. And we know that, I think it was the Watford game, I thought he played quite well, but since then, he's not got a look in. We know he had an illness the other day, which kept him out of the Sunderland game. He probably would have played then, to be fair. We know he had a COVID case today, which is why he wasn't even involved in the squad. The thing that does surprise me about this story, so as I say, it's not that he could be leaving, it's the timing of it. The African Cup of Nations is coming up in January. So what you're saying is that you're going to allow Thomas Partey to go to the African Cup of Nations, and one of the players whom you could use to backfill that position, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, is going to be allowed to go and join Roma. Excuse my French, but what the fuck for? Why do we want to help Jose Mourinho anyway? Drives me absolutely crazy. Why would we want this? Why would we facilitate this? I don't get it. Now, has he kicked up a massive stink, and is he desperate to get out of the club? Maybe, because as I say, I don't think he's had ample game time. And I think a lot of that is down to the fact that I don't think the club, Mikel Arteta in particular, are convinced about him as a centre midfielder. And I understand that, because I'm not convinced about him as a centre midfielder. But the thing that makes me feel like maybe they have greater faith in him than I'm kind of understanding is the fact that they've rejected offers for him in the past. Maybe those offers just weren't up to what the club value him at. I don't know. But perhaps, this is a sign that we're going to get a centre midfielder in January. It's the only thing I can think of, because to leave yourself even more short, given the African Cup of Nations, in a position I already feel we're short in, just makes no sense to me. And I talked about it on the pod last week. I talked about the fact that I felt at various points last season, Arsenal's kind of, willingness, say Kolasinac, for example, to allow fringe players to leave when we didn't have ample and sufficient cover, came back to bite us on the arse. Now, I'm not saying Kolasinac is a great player and that I want him to start every week for Arsenal, but Kolasinac, for me, would have done a better job in those Europa League games, in that Europa League semi-final tie with Villarreal, than Granit Xhaka did playing at left back. And if you had, say, Kolasinac available, Granit Xhaka would have stayed in the midfield and would have been stronger. So for me, I don't want to see history repeating itself. I just don't want to see Arsenal leaving themselves short and then that coming back and biting us in the arse, because we're in a good place right now. I feel like we're in an upward trajectory. And to me, the idea of letting Maitland-Niles go is crazy unless you have a backup, unless you have a plan. Some of you in the chat are mentioning Jack Wilshere. Could it be? I don't know. To my knowledge, to my understanding, as of today, I don't know that Arsenal are planning to sign Jack Wilshere up. We know he's been training a lot. We know he's been involved a lot in and around the club. My heart would love to see it, but my head isn't sure about it. That's where I'm at on it. But look, as I say, if that's what Arsenal have in mind, if that's what Mikel Arteta's planning, okay, do it, go for it. But just don't leave us short in that position. Don't do it. Leave us short to kind of help Roma out, help Maitland-Niles out. And listen, I've got no problem with Maitland-Niles. I'd love to see him succeed and do well. But I don't want us to allow him to leave at the expense of what we're doing and at the cost of what we're doing. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Right, let's see what some of you guys are saying in the chat box as well. Get your questions in. Let's take as many of your questions as we possibly can for the last sort of 15 minutes of the show before we wrap up. If you're joining us a little bit later on, welcome. I hope you all had a great Christmas. Wonderful Boxing Day so far as well. Arsenal serving up a 5-star performance for us today. That was a nice Christmas present. I got to say, I didn't get many. I'm getting old. So to get that was brilliant. Just a quick one. There's over 600 of you watching us live right this minute on YouTube, which is fantastic. Let's get up to 200 likes, guys. Come on, at minimum. We've got 114 on the board right now. Hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you are new. We're on the road towards 18,000. The goal, hopefully soon, will be us knocking on the door of 20,000. We're not a million miles off of that. So if people do their thing, I'm sure we can close that gap pretty quickly. So like, subscribe. You know the drill by now. If you're listening via the audio platforms, please do leave us a review. Right. Let's take some of your questions. Let's take this one from Dipak. I hope you had a good Christmas, Harry. Which do you prefer, Emile Smith-Rowe or Martinelli on the left wing, and why? I think they give you slightly different things, Dipak. And I think depending on the fixture, you can have, depending on the fixture, you could select which one is better suited, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make. I like Martinelli's directness. I like that Martinelli picks up the ball and wants to just run at people and drive at the heart of the penalty area. If you could draw a straight line from Martinelli to the center of the goal every time he gets it, that's where he would go. That is the route that he would love to take. I think Smith-Rowe gives us a little bit more guile, a little bit more creativity, in the sense of he plays more like a creative midfielder. He is going to thread that pass in. His movement is, I think, a little bit more calculated and a little smarter at times. But Martinelli's a lot more explosive. Martinelli's a lot more direct. I think Martinelli's more of a goal scorer. I know Smith-Rowe scored more than him this season, but Martinelli, I think, had he played the games that Smith-Rowe's played, would be right up there as well, because he gets in the positions. And I think when he does get in the positions, he's shown himself to be a very accomplished finisher. I think it's great that we've got this competition. I really do. The thing with Emile Smith-Rowe that is obviously to his advantage is that he can play through the middle in that number 10 role, but he can also play from the left or the right if need be. What we've got, though, right now at Arsenal is we've got a Martin Odegaard who, as I mentioned earlier, is at the top of his game, is playing some sensational stuff. And there's no reason to drop Martin Odegaard. And we've got Gabriel Martinelli on the left who's come into the side and not put a foot wrong. So for Mikel Arteta now, if he wants to create this meritocracy we're always talking about, and he wants to ensure that players who perform are getting their reward, and those on the peripheries, when they do come on, have to, make an impact and do something in order to kind of force their way back into his thinking. I think this is the perfect scenario. You've got Emile Smith-Rowe who comes off of the bench and delivers pretty much all the time. And you've got Martinelli who's performing brilliantly at the moment. It's a great problem to have. For me personally, I like Martinelli from the left, but I do think there are games where Emile Smith-Rowe is the better fit. So I think it's not a one-size-fits-all. I think they're both still young players, both still developing, and I think they will both have periods where they're not quite at their brilliant best, which makes it all the more important that we've got both of them to select from. Just before I move on to the next question, let me just share with you guys a few tweets that were doing the rounds this evening that I screenshotted and I wanted to share with you guys. So the first one on point here, when we were talking about Emile Smith-Rowe, and I was joined obviously the other day by Mike Stavrou, my co-host when we do our weekly show, Mike Stavrou of Metro Sport, that is. He said, or he tweeted just after the game, Emile Smith-Rowe's last 3 substitute appearances, 24 minutes on the pitch, 1 goal, 12 minutes on the pitch, 1 goal, 8 minutes on the pitch, 1 goal. So Emile Smith-Rowe proving that he can come off the bench, he can impact games, and he's giving Mikel Arteta a really difficult issue and problem to contend with at the moment. But it's a good problem to have, if that makes sense. A couple of other points I just wanted to make off the back of some excellent tweets. Sam Dean, journalist, he said Lacazette's penalty was Arsenal's 18th goal in 5 games since Aubameyang, who was stripped of the captaincy. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang stripped of the captaincy recently, and Arsenal since then have gone on to score 18 goals in their 5 games. Now, I know that you got to take into consideration the opponents, but this is a team that have been constantly criticised for an inability to score as many goals as Arsenal sides of the past, and a side who have been labelled as a blunt knife, as lacking in any sort of spark of creativity. So that's a pretty impressive stat. Also, just going back to my point earlier on, I'm going to keep saying this about Emi Buendia. And the only reason I keep bringing it up is because the heat I got for this during the summer was mad. People tweeting me, criticizing me everywhere about the fact that I said that I wouldn't spend 40 million plus on Emi Buendia. Well, to put it into context, how disappointing and how, how the situation has proved that Arsenal made the right decision. Martin Odegaard this season has got as many assists. Sorry, here we go. Martin Odegaard has got as many assists today as Jack Grealish and Emi Buendia have managed between them in the whole Premier League season. There you go. So, yeah. There you go. Was I right or was I right? Let's keep moving. O'Malley says, I know you like Serie A. What are your thoughts on Svanberg? So I've got to be honest, mate. He's not a player I've seen a great deal of. I could easily go on one of these stats websites and roll off a load of things to you guys and make it seem as though I know a great deal about him, but that would be disingenuous of me and dishonest of me. So I am planning this week because we're going to kick off our transfer show. It'll be a daily podcast coming out in addition to whatever else we do on the channel, where we kind of turn the attention to transfers, and you guys will get your updates. And one of those shows in the next few days will be around the Swedish midfielder, and I'll be drafting in an expert to give us the download on him, as opposed to kind of pretending that I'm an expert on him. Let's see what else we've got here. Halo Mateo says Mikel Arteta's 2-year anniversary today. Comments on that. I think, look, it's we done a show on it a couple of days ago. If you go back on the channel or via the audio platform, depending on where it is you are listening to us from. I'll just tell you the exact date of it. But we did do a show around Mikel Arteta's first couple of years. I did rating Mikel Arteta's 2 years as Arsenal boss, and that show went out to you guys on December 21st. So check it out. I gave him a rating out of 10. I'm not going to spoil the rating for those of you who haven't seen or listened to it yet, but I think what you have to say now is that it may be a bit later than we'd have hoped. We're starting to see the true kind of Mikel Arteta plan. We're starting to see Arteta ball, if you like, and it's not perfect, and there's a lot of work that still needs to be done, but we are seeing Arsenal moving in the right direction. I think the latest round of recruitment has proved to be a very good round of recruitment. I think we've done well to move out some bad characters, and it looks as though we're weeding out another bad character in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang at the moment. So I think we're on the right track. But yeah, I totally acknowledge and agree that maybe we needed to see, if not this, signs of this a little bit sooner for people to feel more confident. GB says, thoughts on Ben White. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Sometimes when the question's a little bit like long and I don't see the punctuation, I'll make a mess of reading it out. So I do apologize. GB says, thought Ben White made quite a few errors at right back today. Is there a case for Tavares filling that position against Man City on New Year's Day before Tommy returns? Interesting. There were a couple of errors from Ben White, but I thought overall we got away with him playing at right back. Now, I'm not going to say he was great because I don't think he was great. And I'll be dropping my player ratings first thing in the morning for our YouTube viewers. But I thought we got away with a couple of bits at right back today. But the reason I don't think Nuno Tavares will come in is because, as I've said to you guys before, when we've done our tactical analysis shows, the role of the right back in this team is largely to drop in alongside the two centre backs, shift across slightly and facilitate the attacking runs of the left back. So for me, we do become and morph into a back three quite a bit. And that's why Tomiyasu was the man that we bought, because he is a centre back pretty much. He's someone who's got the versatility to play in either position, but he's got the build of a centre back. He's comfortable tucking in as part of a back three when we're in possession. He's capable of stepping into central areas. So I think the system has a very specific fit in terms of the person who plays at right back for us. It's a different fit to who plays at left back, where you're asking the player to get up and down the pitch, be more dynamic. So I think for me, the idea of putting Ben White there was to keep some continuity in the way that we play. I think when we've seen Cedric come in at right back, like he did, midweek, and again, granted it was against sort of League One opposition, it changes us a little bit. And it doesn't give us the stability or security that we have when we play with Tomiyasu there. A, because Tomiyasu is a much better player, but B, because stylistically, Cedric is like the left back. He wants to get forward. He wants to get involved. That's where Cedric is at his best, when he's putting balls into the penalty area. Got a great delivery on him for all his other faults. But it just doesn't fit. And I think that's why Tavares wasn't selected to play at right back today, because he could have done that today, couldn't he? If he wanted to. So yeah, that's my opinion. Nishith says, why did we switch El Neni to Partey when we could have given Nketiah some more minutes, since Laka doesn't usually have 90 minutes in his tank? As I say, mate, perhaps there was a prior knowledge, or at least an idea around the fact that the Wolves game would get postponed. I think Partey needed the rest perhaps as well. Remember, Arsenal have been having this back and forth with Ghana about Thomas Partey and when exactly he's going to be released for the African Cup of Nations. Perhaps part of the agreement was that he would only play a certain amount of minutes. I don't know. I know Arsenal were struggling and were having discussions around keeping him for the game that was going to take place on Tuesday. So I don't know if Arsenal have looked at the situation and said, well, we can get away with taking Thomas Partey off. It's what he wants. It's what his national team want. And we're in a commanding position, so maybe let's do it. Also, though, Partey's played a lot of football lately. And for me, at times, hasn't looked 100% fit. So if you can protect him, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Big hello to the Gooner Talk. Tom, how you doing, mate? Hope you had a great Christmas. I hope you're enjoying a bit of downtime. Is it downtime? I don't know. I know we don't really ever stop working, but you know what I mean. Myself and Tom will be back with a show this week. We didn't do one last week, didn't we? Did we or didn't we? Or was that the week before? I don't know. I've lost track of the days. It always happens at Christmas. But we'll get that arranged soon. But make sure you head over to the Gooner Talk, subscribe, all the usual stuff. Check it out. It's a fantastic Arsenal channel, and Tom is brilliant at what he does. Make sure you follow him at Tom Canton Media, and you can follow the Gooner Talk TV as well on Twitter. Right, let's keep going down through the chat. Nice to see some positivity. Mohammed says that feeling confident about the decisions Arteta and Co are making. We'll get there sooner than expected. Hope so, mate. Hope so indeed. Big hello to Happy Christmas. Great name. He says people have been wanting and asking how we get all 4 young guns in. If Lacazette out or tired or hurt, could we not go to Emile Smith-Rowe as a striker? He has been clinical, old school, black boots. So I guess what you're suggesting is playing him as a bit of a false 9. Well, we tried that before. We tried that, didn't we, in that Villarreal game in the first leg of last season's Europa League semi-finals, and that didn't work out as we'd have hoped. So I don't imagine that that's something that we do, but it's an option if needs be. But we've got Eddie Nketiah around the place following Balogun too. So I don't see Arteta making that decision. But yeah. Let's see what else we've got. Naz Osman, lovely comment this. Harry, have you grown your beard because you want to hide them chins? Actually, no. I've grown my beard because I haven't had the opportunity to get down to the barbers. But if that's what you want to say, I have eaten a lot of meat. I've probably eaten my body weight in meat over the last couple of days. Lovely comment. Thank you so much, mate. What else have we got in the chat box? The Gooner Talk. Good question. This I'm gonna tackle this one. What is your favorite thing about this Arsenal side that you think no one is talking about? I like the edge that this Arsenal side's got. And when I say edge, I mean, like, if you saw that incident today, there was a couple of incidents today. I like that, for example, I know he gets himself in trouble sometimes and it pisses people off. I like that Granit Xhaka doesn't take shit from people. I like the fact that we've got a character like that in the team who, will cross the line at times and get himself into trouble, but protects those around him. I like, because he was arguing and remonstrating, wasn't he, about the fact that Martinelli was down on the ground. We should have definitely got a free kick for that tackle in the build-up. And then there was that incident with Ben White in the first half where he kind of gets a little bit of a shove and then, reacts. And these are guys, especially in Ben White's case, that you look at and you go, oh, well, he's very calm and he's very calculated. And this guy doesn't care about football. He doesn't watch football. That's what everybody was saying about Ben White. But there is that edge to them. Ramsdale's got it too. Tierney's got it. Martinelli certainly got it. You've got these guys who are hungry and might look calm and calculated all of the time. But there is that needle there. There is that, that fight. And I really like that. I remember when we go back to the Invincible team, people always used to talk about the flair. People used to talk about the skill, the beautiful football that we played. And I know a lot of was made of that Old Trafford game in particular, where the kind of run started where, Van Nistelrooy missed that penalty after Patrick Vieira had been sent off, etc., etc. I know people always refer to that game and say, oh, look how tough this Arsenal side was. But it wasn't just in that game. It was every single week. And it was so important that we had that edge and that needle and that kind of that burning fire in our bellies to kind of always make sure that we stood up for not just ourselves, but one another. And I really like that. And I think that is really there and it's really evident in this team again. And there's big characters in this team. Again, they don't always show themselves to be big characters. For example, I think Ben White's a big character, but he doesn't show it necessarily in the way that Aaron Ramsdale does every 5 minutes. But you can see, you just get glimpses that it's there. You see it from other players as well. So that's what I'm really enjoying about this team. There's a unity and there's a toughness. There's a bit of needle in there as well. And that, for me, I think is healthy. Let's take this one from Said Abdullah. Thank you so much, mate, for your very, very kind super chat donation. It is much appreciated. And wishing you, I hope you had a great Christmas period. if you celebrate or whatever you've been doing over the last couple of days. I hope it's been great, and I hope you're well. I haven't spoken to any of you for a couple of days. So, yeah, I hope you're all good. He says, we need to see a performance against City. I'm tired of getting battered every year. Yeah, look, this is a hard one with City, okay? Because it's a bit like the Liverpool game, whereby if you see something positive, you're like, great, we're making progress. We're moving in the right direction. But if you lose, you still have to temper that reaction. You still have to make sure that you don't go overboard, even if it is heavy. And I'll tell you why. Because we're not competing at City's level. We all know that. Anyone sensible knows that. So it would be great to see that positive performance, even if it results in a narrow defeat, but Arsenal playing well, going toe-to-toe with Manchester City, or at least containing them for large periods. That would be great. But it still doesn't undo or derail all the good that we've done so far this season if we do go and get heavily beaten by Manchester City, because unfortunately we're not at that level yet. So yeah, I'd love to see the performance. I'd love to see a good performance, but equally, if we don't perform very well, if we are completely outplayed, I'm not going to be on here calling for the manager's head immediately after. Jid32 says, your man of the match. Oh, this is a really difficult question, this, because I thought there were a few players who played really, really well today. I think on the basis of the fact that he got 2 goals, and 2 important goals, the first one and the third one, which ultimately put the game completely to bed, I'm going to give it to Bukayo Saka. But I enjoyed Odegaard's performance. Odegaard's right up there, actually. In fact, he might have just edged it overall. Yeah, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to defer to Martin Odegaard. There you go. He's my man of the match. Osman Ali, how you doing, man? He says, Harold, which striker would you sign if it were up to you? If we've got an unlimited war chest, as they tend to call them these days, then I would go for Vlahovic. I really, really would. But I'm not sure that that's going to be doable and that's going to be achievable. We keep hearing as well that the player is set on a move to Italy, or a move with it. Is set on staying in Italy, which obviously poses a problem for us. Hopefully we can, if indeed we are serious about that interest, we can make an offer that tempts the player, that tempts the club to selling him to us, that gets the club to agree to sell him to us, and then we have to work on the player. But if we can persuade him of the project, and this is the thing with Arsenal right now, okay? We're having a really good discussion on the hybrid squad the other night with Sophie Nicolau and Kevin Campbell. And one of the things we were talking about was, can't Arsenal go out and get, I think Sophie brought up Haaland. Why can't we go and get Haaland? Why can't we go and get the top elite players in any position in the world at this moment in time? And I guess the answer from my perspective is that at this moment in time, we are a team who are showing loads and loads of potential, but we haven't done anything yet. We haven't got back into the Champions League yet. And so when you haven't got that to show, when you haven't got that evidence that, yes, we are definitely, without any shadow of a doubt, good enough to finish in the top 4, you're relying on your ability to sell the project to people rather than cold, hard evidence as to why you think this is the place that player should come to. So I think that for players that are right at the top of their game, at the highest level, like Erling Haaland, for example, why is he going to go and join a project when he can join the finished article? Because he is in demand and he knows everybody wants him. So that's my point. It's still going to be difficult to compete against the biggest clubs, or no, biggest clubs is the wrong term, because some of them are tin pot, Chelsea, Man City, your examples. But it's going to be difficult to compete with clubs that are already at a level at which they're competing for the game's biggest prizes when you're still going for a transition and still building a project. As I say, you're relying on somebody looking at it and going, yeah, I'm 100% bought into that. And often the best players in the world who are at the top of their games, at the peak of their powers, don't see it like that. They don't look at things like that. They say, well, why am I going to go and join a project when I can join something ready-made? I've already shown that I'm at this level. I don't need to take a step sideways. I need to take a step that's clearly forward-thinking one. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be difficult. I'd love to see Vlahovic come to Arsenal, but it is going to be tough, as I say. Darren Sullivan saying, laughing at the term project. And he says, forget a project. A project is their propaganda, and you fall for it every time. This is Arteta word for my apprenticeship. This is what I don't get, mate. It's Boxing Day. Sit down, have a nice drink, kick back, watch Match of the Day, watch Arsenal score 5 goals away from home, and just enjoy yourselves. Why are there so many Arsenal fans out there waiting to piss on our parade every time we win a game? I don't understand it. A project is something that happens or is put together or is worked on over a period of time. And it's clear if you follow the Mikel Arteta timeline, it was get out the dead wood. That took longer than we hoped. Agreed. We've done most of that now. Bring in young, promising players as we look to rebuild. We've done a lot of that now. And we're performing. The results are better. And we're in a place where we're competing at this moment in time for the top 4. That is, as I said earlier on, in an ideal world, we'd have loved to have seen glimpses of this earlier. We'd have loved to be at this point much earlier. But there is progress, and Arsenal are moving in the right direction. A project is something that you work on over time within the constraints that you are a slave to ultimately. And that is what Arsenal are doing right now. The word project is not propaganda. It's the club's way of communicating to you, the fans, and me, the fans, that this is something that isn't going to happen overnight. And if you think it can happen overnight, you've had too many Irish coffees this Christmas, because there's no way that something like this, something of this size, happens that quickly, unless you've got a sugar daddy who's going to throw £300-400 million at it. That's the thing. And people keep saying it's propaganda. This is not Nazi Germany. This is not Adolf Hitler printing off leaflets and dropping them out of aeroplanes on your doorstep to convince you that Mikel Arteta is the right man. It's not propaganda. It ain't that deep, mate. It ain't that bloody deep. But anyway, and agree completely with Sam Tonks, who says because people are having a go at Granit Xhaka. Again, God knows why, but Sam Tonks says Granit Xhaka, and that's in the comments, by the way. If you're listening on the audio, you don't know what I'm talking about, but we're getting lots of people in the comments having a go at Granit Xhaka. And when I talked about Deadwood, saying, well, he is Deadwood. And as Sam Tonks so rightly points out in the comments, Granit Xhaka has been pivotal since his return. #agendas. Completely agree. Right, we are going to leave it there. We've been going for over an hour on this Boxing Day evening. As I said earlier on, if you're joining us a little bit late, I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. I hope you're rested. Hope you've eaten lots, drank lots, and are looking forward to a week of bank holidays and things to do before the kind of New Year's celebrations come about. Unfortunately, we won't be watching Arsenal in a couple of days' time. But as I said to you guys a little bit earlier on, might prove to be a bit of a blessing in disguise. Let's quickly check in where we are on the likes. We're on 200. We've done it. Let's try and get as close to 250 by the time the outro rolls. There's over 600 of you still watching with us right now live. Get involved. Like, subscribe if you're new. I'll be back tomorrow with some more content, and I might bring you a couple of YouTube shorts from the Darts World Championship at Alexandre Palace. I'll be there tomorrow. So, yeah, catch you then. Until next time, take care. Goodbye.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.